Hey everyone, my name is Chelsea. Welcome to Little Mountain Ranch. I am really happy to have you here with me today for a garden tour and whatever else we get up to as we wander around the farm. It has been the most beautiful last couple of days. I feel like I open every video, especially during the summertime, with some reference to the weather, but that's just because it plays such a huge role in our farm life here. And checking the forecast this morning, it looks like we are in for, oh, you can hear the wind, it's already kicking up, for some storms over the last couple of days. In fact, we woke up yesterday morning to helicopters buzzing around above the farm, and it turns out when Dan left for town a little bit later in the day, that up over the mountain that away, about a kilometer or two, there was actually a forest fire that had been started by a lightning strike, but they had already had it well under control by the time we heard about it. So that's good. This year has been so nice as far as the lack of smoke in the air. We've had smoky skies. There's Dan coming down off the mountain. Hi! Okay, we're gonna go take care of what we need to take care of in the garden, and then we're actually gonna head up to the mountain because I have something to show you up there that's rather unfortunate. Back to what I was saying about the fires we have had since 2017, either a local fire or really intense smoke from fires in other areas blowing into our region. I think this may be the first summer that we have not had that since 2017. So I'm really enjoying the clear skies. It's just incredibly beautiful with these clear, gorgeous skies. So what do we need to do first? Let's head down to the high tunnel first and get it opened up and get the peppers uncovered. I'm still covering the peppers at night because we're still getting under 10 degrees at night. Cows looking happy out there. Super high-tech door lock here. You know, it was supposed to be really cloudy today, but it's looking really nice right now, and it does not take much to get this high tunnel way too hot. So I think what we'll do is open the back and front doors and roll up the sides. I am enjoying my high tunnel so much this year. I mean, I enjoy it every year, but some years more so than others, and this is one of those years that I'm just loving it. Looks like we need to tie up a few tomatoes along this side. Our little cucamelons are starting to vine. Look at that, little tendrils. Beautiful. Tomato flowers. Some tomatoes even starting to form. This is a dwarf tomato, and they mature really quickly, so it's kind of fun to throw those in a high tunnel to get some early tomatoes. Some bolting lettuce here. It always amazes me how quickly plants just take off once the heat hits. Makes me happy, especially after a cool spring like this. Before we head out, I'm going to turn the drip irrigation on and give everybody a nice soak after these last couple of hot days. I did actually have the shade cloth on the high tunnel during the last 2 days because it was hot. It was, I think, 32 degrees or something like that outside, so really warm. And it just gets way too hot in here. And what happens, even though these are heat-loving plants, if it gets too hot, so anything kind of over 30 degrees Celsius, I'll put the Fahrenheit on the screen here for you, can actually sterilize your flowers. So if you have ever noticed, if you live in a really hot climate or you're growing in a high tunnel like this, that you have lots of flowers but you're not getting a lot of fruit, it could be because the flowers are being sterilized by the heat. So trying to keep those temperatures a little bit lower than that 30-degree mark is a really good idea, and shade cloth is highly effective for doing that. I'll show you what my shade cloth looks like. It is a well-used shade cloth, so it does have some holes in it that I need to stitch up, but this is what it looks like, and then I just pull it over the high tunnel when it's too hot. There have been a couple of years where I have had the shade cloth on and actually just left it on all summer, but since we got such a slow start rather, this year, just because of the cold weather, I've decided to leave it off to get my plants as much sun as I can possibly get or give them, or at least off when it is cool enough. Super excited about this. So this is a northern melon, and it basically stayed the same size for weeks after I planted it with the cold weather. But with this heat, all of a sudden, they are starting to grow. Oh my gosh, look, there's a flower down there. That's very exciting, and lots of buds, lots that are about to open. Yay! And the petunias are also taking off like crazy. They love heat. I'll show you the difference between these ones here, so just keep these in mind when we go outside, and then the ones that have been out in the main garden, no comparison. Green stalk looking pretty. I love when I walk in the door because I can smell the sweet alyssum right away. That's the reason why I planted it in here. Just for that reason. Look at these beautiful flowers. My goodness. Let's head over and turn the drip irrigation on. Honey, what are you doing? This is a very dirty honey. She's given herself a scratch. Want me to help with that, love? Oh, there we go. Let's give you a scratch. Honey is going to have a calf soon. Hi, Thistle. How are you, love? Oh, you're such a good girl. Where's Aster? Thistle had a calf about a week ago now, but she must be laying down in the grass somewhere. Come on, turkey lurkeys. Turkeys are so funny. Oh my goodness. I love turkeys. They're the best. I need to clean my filter. So I've shared this before, but we have spring water. Hang on one sec. And there's a lot of silt in it, so we use this filter just so it doesn't plug up the lines, or the drip tape rather. So one thing about growing, if you're going to grow anything in pots like this, you do need to make sure that you fertilize them. So I just gave these guys a feeding a couple of days ago with just some liquid fish fertilizer. And you'll need to do that every, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks or so, just because they'll run out of nutrients in these pots pretty quickly. Did I tell you I ordered another green stalk? So this is my first green stalk. And I loved it so much that I wanted another one. So this one is the leaves, it's the smaller version. So I ordered a larger one, and it should be there. It might even actually be there tomorrow, hopefully. So beautiful, just love it. Okay, let's head up to the garden. The temperature that it's at right now is my favorite, where it's warm, but there's a little bit of a cool breeze blowing through, and the light is just beautiful. So here is a comparison to the plants that I just showed you, or the petunias that I just showed you in the greenhouse. You can see how sad these poor guys are looking. So I'm hopeful that with this little bit of a shift in weather and warmer nighttime temperatures, that these are gonna perk up, because they're just kind of sad. I'm just deadheading them, by the way, just removing all the dead flowers. When you do this, make sure you pull off the whole green part here. Not just, I've watched people do this before where they just take this part of the flower off, but it's better if you just pop it off right here, and that just signals to the plant to make more flowers. Our peas are starting to finally take off. So peas generally like cooler weather, but they do need some sun in order to really get going. And they are starting to. So do you remember the other day when I showed you the pickling cucumbers and how they just weren't even growing at all of a sudden in the last 2 days? New leaves forming on them. Same with our squash, starting to look a little bit happier anyway. Look at this abundance kale. It is just looking fantastic. We actually can start harvesting off of this now. That is exciting. Our cabbages are starting to look beautiful. These ones are the Copenhagen market cabbages. We love cabbage in our house. Oh, something that I wanted to get harvested today are these chive flowers. So I like to steep these chive flowers in white vinegar for a few weeks and then use that for a base for my salad dressings. Super easy. You just put these in some white vinegar in a mason jar and set it aside. I usually put it in my kitchen window and let it steep, and it turns this beautiful purple color. I don't want to pick all these just because this looks so pretty here, but we'll get enough to do a pint jar at least. Please remind me that those are in my pocket. Columbine are one of my favorite flowers to grow up here in the north. One, because they bloom early, way before anything else does, but also because they bloom for weeks and the flowers last for a really long time. You can see there's all kinds of new buds coming on there. This is the one spot in the garden that tends to get frost, if we're gonna get frost, and we did have some frost into the beginning of June. And these are all really suffering from it. I'm hoping that with the warmer weather, they're gonna perk up. But we do have so many plants in the garden that are just doing fantastically well. Like our bok choy here, our fennel is looking really good. Lettuces, of course, love cooler weather. They're looking good. Dill is starting to grow a little bit more vigorously. It's been very slow going. Leeks, of course, are doing well. Carrots coming up everywhere. And our beautiful garlic is just looking fantastic. So the way that you can tell that garlic is ready is when the first 5 or 6 leaves, starting from here, start to brown. So you can see this one's starting to yellow, but these ones all have lots of green. So these will brown and shrivel up, and then your garlic is ready to harvest. My flower garden down here, this was something that needed my attention today, so maybe we'll spend a little bit of time here. This could be called a cut flower bed, but I don't usually cut my flowers and bring them inside. I just like them out in the garden. So I'm sure I'll bring a few bouquets in throughout the summer, but for the most part, this is going to be the most beautiful backdrop to my vegetable garden this year. I have flowers in amongst all of the veggies as well, but this is at the bottom of the garden, and I just cannot wait to see it in full bloom. I've managed to stay pretty on top of my weeding in the garden this year. So even though we had this really cold spring, we had a really mild winter and snow was off the ground way earlier than usual. So I've been able to work out in the garden months longer than I normally get to. And I've been able to just kind of stay on top of all the weeds, but I haven't given this bed much attention, as you can see. So the way that I have this, I actually should have done in a slightly different order, which is unfortunate, but I have mini cosmos up here. So they're only going to grow about this tall. And then in behind those, I have original or regular cosmos. So those are going to grow fairly tall. And behind that, I have zinnia, and zinnia grow fairly tall too, but not quite as tall as the cosmos do. And I should have done it in a different order. I should have put the zinnia up here and the cosmos back there. That's okay. I'm sure it'll look beautiful either way. I did give my garden a good watering last night. I like to water in the evening. I love the sound of the sprinkler. We have the, you know, kind of sprinkler. It's a very nostalgic sound for me. So I love having it going in the evening, but also, of course, just so that the plants get to absorb a lot of that water before the sun hits and starts evaporating it off. I would love to hear what your favorite flowers to grow in the garden are. Each year I tend to have a different favorite. Last year it was straw flowers, and I didn't even plant any straw flowers this year. I don't know why. I just didn't. I'm not sure what it's going to be this year. I've started a few new things. I started pansies before. Of course, we've had pansies in the garden before, but I've started my own from seed this year. Kind of feel like it might be the year of the Cosmo. I've grown Cosmos lots before, but I think the mini ones with the large ones in the back, and they're all different colors. Light pink, dark pink, fuchsia, white. I think it's gonna look really beautiful. But I also have a whole bunch of sunflowers, seeds that were sent to me by many of you, different kinds of sunflowers that I haven't grown before. So maybe it'll be the year of the sunflower. We'll have to wait and see. The whole back row of this patch is all sunflowers. Okay, so I am going to get this bed weeded, and then we will go up the mountain together and see what kind of trouble Dan got into up there. All right, we are done. And I wanted to show you something I noticed over here. We have garlic scapes. This part right here is what will eventually become the flower for the garlic plant, but these are really tasty. They're one of the added benefits of growing hardneck varieties of garlic. You can see they're starting to form all over the place because they give you a second harvest. Or I guess this would be the first harvest and the bulb would be the second harvest. Hardneck garlics are really good to grow in the north. They just do really well in our cooler climates. And I store my garlic all the way until well into March, sometimes into April, without any issues. So generally speaking, soft neck garlics tend to store better. That's what I've heard. I've never grown it, so I don't know, but I have had no issues with hardneck garlic at all. Do you guys like weeding? I actually really enjoy weeding. I find it really satisfying. Sometimes if my kids come out and give me a hand, then we just sit and visit. And sometimes I'll listen to audiobooks, and then I just love the end result of a freshly weeded bed. So I really enjoy it, which is a good thing since I am a gardener with a large garden and a lot of weeds. I wanted to show you something over here that I ended up having to do last night. So these are my haskaps or my honeyberries, and I have them covered in this net because birds love these purple berries, and we also love them too. And we haven't had any issues with birds eating our berries before this year. But when I was out in the garden last night, I noticed a whole flock of birds descend on my honeyberry bushes, and by the time I got over, they had already eaten a ton of them. Fortunately, they're just ripening now, so I just covered them with some netting, and that should protect them so that we can get the harvest. Oh, which reminds me, now that we're over here, something that I need to do. I plant comfrey around the base of all of my fruit trees because it adds awesome mulch. I just chop it down and lay it down around the base of the fruit trees, and it keeps all the grass away from the fruit trees. Also, I say this every time I mention comfrey, but it's worth repeating. It's a biodynamic accumulator. Deep root goes way down into the ground, pulls up nutrients that the fruit tree with its more shallow roots can't access. And then all that good stuff goes into the leaves. We cut it down and it feeds the top layer of the soil, which the fruit tree can access those nutrients. So let's chop this one down. So one of the things that I have taken to doing over the last couple of years is instead of actually cutting the comfrey, I stomp it down like this, all the way around the plant, or the tree, rather. And the reason that I do this is because the flowers that the comfrey produces, the bees love, especially the bumblebees. And if I stomp it down like this, it still does the mulching that I was talking about during the summer. So by stomping on it like this, it doesn't actually kill the plant all the way. And a lot of these branches on the end of the comfrey will actually curve back up like this where the flowers are. And then the bees will still be able to access those flowers all the way around the plant. By stomping it down, it blocks out all of the sun and the light from around the roots of the tree to keep the grass back from it. And then in the fall, it just dies back like this. And then all of those nutrients go into the soil. So I often have to do this a couple of times throughout the year. One of the other things that I need to do, besides stomping down all my comfrey, is to come along and start to thin the apples on these branches. And it always makes me kind of sad to do this, but it is necessary for a couple of reasons. One, these are pretty small, thin branches. And if I let all of these apples form on these branches, they would end up weighing the branch down too much and likely breaking it. one of the other things that I learned the other day is that by pruning off your apples like this, it actually encourages the apple tree to produce more fruit the second year. So apples tend to be biennial, meaning that they have their biggest harvest every second year. But if you prune the apples off like this, apparently, I don't know this for a fact because I haven't done a lot of research on this, but apparently it helps the tree to produce more fruit on that alternating year. There's so many apples on here, oh my gosh. This is gonna have to be a family project. We'll all come out here because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apple trees, all with a bajillion little baby apples on them. So we're gonna have to come out and divide and conquer to get these all thinned. So something else that I learned is that you want to get your apples thinned out when they're fairly small like this, if one of your goals is to encourage more fruiting on that second year. It has something to do with just the signal that the plant gets, that it needs to produce more fruit on that second year. And if they get too big and you pull them off, then apparently whatever reaction that is in the genetics of the tree doesn't get the signal, doesn't get the message that it needs to produce that extra fruit on that second year. I was also watching My Self-Reliance, which is another Canadian YouTube channel that I love. It's just fantastic content. And he was saying that he prunes all of the fruit off of his really young trees for a couple of years to help to encourage really good root growth and branches on the tree so that the plant's putting its energy into that instead of into producing the apples themselves. That is not something that I have done. And now my plants are, or my trees are old enough to be able to get some fruit off of them. We have actually had a couple of really good harvest years. Let's go take these flowers that are in my pocket, the chive flowers, and get them in some vinegar in the house, and then we'll head up the mountain. Ooh, we got some thunder happening. We better hustle. Okay, let's take our flowers out here. Okay, I'm just gonna wash these just to remove any possible bugs in there. A nice clean jar, something cute. I'll throw our flowers in there and then just top it with some white vinegar. We'll lid it up and set it aside for a couple weeks. Doesn't that look pretty? Decided to grab a rain jacket just in case. See that up there? So do you remember I shared in our last video that we found a spring up right there where you can see the bulldozers, and we have a plan and a hope really to be able to make a big pond up there with a gravity fed water system so that we can irrigate this new field that we have just started cultivating. But one small problem. The land that we're working with, of course, because there's a spring there, is very soft, very, very soft. And Dan had to, in order for the excavator to get in and actually make the pond, he had to clear out the area around it. Well, that's where the trouble started. Let me show you. And you know what? I don't see Dan anywhere up here. Where did he go? Very unfortunate. So it gets worse. This was the machine that Dan brought to pull out, oh my gosh, this machine. Spring itself is actually way over here. I'll take you over there where the cattails are, but it's kind of seeping out all the way along the base of this, which was hard to tell when we first came up here. But in happy news, there's lots of water down there. You must be thinking, how is he ever going to get these machines out? Well, The guy that we have up here that's logging has big machines up here, bigger than these ones even. And their plan is, because they're going to use an excavator that has a really long arm, is to bring the excavator in and clear out the space in front and then just pull them out. There is also a pretty heavy duty winch on the back of this one that he was considering attaching somewhere up there and potentially trying to pull it out this way. Oh, there he is. I don't know that we're gonna get very far with this right now, with this big menacing storm coming from over the mountain. So Dan was just saying that the winch is working in one direction, but when he moves it the other way, which is the way he needs it to go, it's just pouring oil everywhere. So he has to do some maintenance. So we were walking through this area, just kind of mapping out what spots we wanted to clear. And as we were walking along, we came upon this right here. So you can see it's really marshy and the ground is really soft and lots of water in here. And we even have, so you can see we have cattails growing in all through here. So we're gonna create a big, gigantic pond right here by digging this area out, and then we'll hopefully be able to actually irrigate out of it if we can get enough water. But even if we can't, having this turned into a big pond up here will make awesome wildlife habitat and an area for us to water our cattle that we're hoping to graze up here. So remember when I was sharing with you down in the high tunnel that we, our property, our house and the greenhouse and all of our irrigation is fed by a spring. It's actually a spring very, very similar to this, just way over here on this side of our property. I imagine that how many years ago would it have been now? Around 120 years ago, when this property was first homesteaded, that they were wandering around and found that spring and then dug the trenches and everything in the pipes in order to water the house and the property. And now we're doing the same thing, and I think that's really cool. So are you just gonna work up here until the torrential downpour hits? Oh, starting to rain. Hopefully it doesn't just dump on us all of a sudden. At least not before we test this out and see if this is gonna work. There, but it's also not working. That's too bad. No, he's trying to get it to come out this way, of course, and not wind in. And it's winding in just fine, but it's not wanting to go the other way. It worked for a second, but the rain is really starting to come down now. Oh, it's working! Yay! That's fantastic! That's amazing. Good job, Hen. That's huge progress. Really nice when things work out after a bit of a catastrophe like this. That's great. Okay, I'm just gonna set the... Okay, I am going to set the camera up over here, out of the rain.
Hold us all the way towards you.
Okay. Good? Yeah? Oh, the tracks are turning. Oh dear. That tree's not quite gonna hold it. If he had a bigger tree, most of the trees that are on this slope are really small. I think he'd be able to actually do it. But that's awesome that you got that working.
I think it's huge.
Do you think like you'll hook the excavator up to that and pull it out with the...
No. I'm just going to dig up in front of both machines and then pull it down.
Oh, okay. I see. Okay, I'm going to head back down. Make sure I keep you updated on the saga of the stuck machines. Dan's really confident that they'll be able to get them out. I hope that you have a fantastic day, and I'll see you again next time. Bye.